Alrighty, let me just double check that the audio is working. Testing 1, 2, 3. Yep, okay, we are good. So welcome back to day 7 of Real Housewives of Canton, the murder trial that just will not quit. We are heading back for, well, I mean, there's going to be more direct and then some cross-examination of Jim McCabe. I understand the cross gets very fiery, so we'll have to wait and see exactly how that one pans out. Turn the ads off. No. I have to make what little... Actually, no, you know what? I'll turn it off on the main channel, okay? Where are we? There we go. Oh, you know what? I can at least hit play, and then I can start doing shit. Oh, Jason dropped 10 memberships. Fair enough.
Giddy. All persons have any business before the Honorable Beverly Coney, Justice of the Norfolk Superior Court, before the country of Norfolk. Join in, give your attendance, and you shall be heard. God save the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. The court is now open. You may be seated.
All right. Good morning again, counsel. Good morning, Ms. Reed. Good morning, jurors. Good morning.
I'm putting the subs only on there.
This morning, there was something I needed to discuss with the lawyers to help streamline the evidence that will be presented to you today. So I appreciate your patience. I do have to ask you those questions. Were you all able to follow my instructions and refrain from discussing this case with anyone since we left yesterday? Everyone said yes and nodded affirmatively. Were you also able to follow my instructions and refrain from doing any independent research or investigation into this
And
case?
ads are off.
Everyone said yes or nodded affirmatively. Did anyone happen to see, hear, or read anything about this case since we left yesterday? No. Everyone said no or shook their hands. Thank you very much. Could we have Ms. McCabe back, please?
Excuse me, sorry. Let's go. Thank you for dropping the memberships, Jason. Very much appreciate that. Not gonna lie, the monetization on the channel took a nosedive when I had to switch to doing driving streams as opposed to at home. So.
Thank you.
Good morning, Ms. McCabe. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Before you take us back to Fairview Road, I want
For the most part, the ads are more of a deterrent than anything else, I'll be perfectly honest. I mean, that's why I've made it a goal that if we get 10 memberships, I turn them off altogether. Because bad as it sounds, the ads are just an annoyance for you guys. I don't get much money from them at all based on the amount of views that I get. So, Bev's smiling again. Oh, shit.
I want to ask you a couple of questions about John's house at Meadows. Are you familiar with his house?
Yes.
Have you seen the front of his house before?
Yes, I have.
Are you familiar with his driveway?
Yes.
Are you familiar with whether there's any surveillance system at Mr. O'Keefe's house?
Yes.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Ms. McCabe, I'm showing you what has been previously marked as Exhibit 6. Do you recognize that photo?
Yes, I do.
And what is it?
That's John O'Keefe's house.
Can we provide Exhibit 6 to the jury, please? And that screen, is that Mr. O'Keefe's home?
Yes.
I'm showing you what's been marked as Exhibit 8. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
And what is it?
That is the side of Mr. O'Keefe's house, the 2 garage doors.
Is there any indication of surveillance?
Looks, is this a ring camera right here? Looks,
Is that what John O'Keefe's side of his house looks like?
yes.
I want to show you Exhibit 10. Do you recognize what's in that photo?
Yes.
What is it?
It is the driveway at John O'Keefe's.
See a car to the left?
Yes.
Do you know whose car that is?
Yes, that's Miss Reed's.
Is that what you left it the night before? For those early morning hours when you drove to Mr. O'Keefe's house?
Yes.
I want to show you it's been marked as Exhibit 11. Do you recognize what's in that photo?
Yes, Miss Reed's vehicle.
Is that the vehicle that Ms. Reed showed you with the broken missing taillight that morning?
Yes, it is.
broken piece of taillight, not 40 odd pieces.
You mentioned earlier in the night, you spoke to John O'Keefe when you called him or he called you about directions to Fairview Road.
Yes.
And you also shared that you had a phone conversation offering directions.
Yes, I did.
Did you tell John that the house at Fairview was near Bella's mom's house?
Sustained is to form, Mr. Brennan.
Okay. What did you tell John as far as directions to Fairview? How did you mark it for him?
I told him to go by, past Bella's house, the Bella's Street, and then to follow it down to the end.
Now I want you to take us back where we were yesterday when we left off. You had brought us to Fairview Road. You had found John.
Yes.
You shared with us that you were trying chest compressions. Before the chest compressions, did you make a phone call?
I called 911.
I'd like to move to introduce a copy of that 911 call.
Okay. Do you have something physically to? Thank you.
Ms. McLaughlin does.
Thank you.
With,
Thank you.
with the court's permission, I'd like to play Exhibit 45.
Yes.
No, this is collaboration.
Yes, I'm going to kind of third Fairview Road, we can't have the van packed out in the snow.
You can't hold on, because you can't please go. You can let you know, okay?
Yeah, no, I did that.
You have to tell them that they're on.
I could keep going. Like, you guys got area 15, okay? Okay. I will. Where's the message? I don't think like it.
911, what's your emergency?
I need someone to come. I immediately to start Fairview Road, can't get now.
What's going on?
There's a guy unresponsive in the snow.
Is it something 34?
Yes, that's for the Alpha resident. Yes, I just pulled up and found it.
Okay, 34 Fairview?
That's the Fairview, can't now, yes.
911 is under where's your emergency? Hello?
Yes, I'm back. Can you come to 34? Fairview Road in Houston?
34 Fairview?
Yes, there's a man unresponsive in the snow.
Okay, and the,
And people will. He's going to here, okay?
okay, what's going on? Is he face down?
We just flipped him over.
Okay. And who's that in the background? Is that someone related?
That's his girlfriend, he was John Cleese.
Okay, how old is he?
John is 26 years old.
46, how long has he been outside?
I don't know. I don't know. He got out of the car and I couldn't not call of hours. Is he sorry? I don't know if he remembers. There are two women trying to it could be spotty and then it's circle.
Okay, can you just try asking? I know it's tough, but we have to get the fire department going. They're just gonna know.
Is he breathing? It doesn't seem to be breathing.
Okay, do they know how to do CPR? Do they want to test it?
Yes, he's got to be, yeah. No, I guess he's gone.
Okay, they don't feel comfortable doing so?
No, I think he's passed away.
Okay. All right, we have the fire department and the police department on the way. If everyone's finding CPR, then I'll hang up with you, and if anything changes, you can give us a call back. Where are you guys outside?
I'm bring up my car. I know, Mom. I'm on the news. I know, honey. I know. Carrie, you gotta get off of me. Carrie, you gotta get off of him.
You know if there's any alcohol or drugs involved?
He's been out.
They've been out drinking.
Yes, I'm talking hours about maybe, and I don't know.
Okay, is there any bleeding or anything? Maybe his head up? His head up?
Yes, absolutely. I think he's bleeding in the face.
Okay, bleeding from the face? All right.
Yes.
Now I think the pool of blood, if there is any.
So I have to know that one of them is doing CPR.
Okay, one of them is doing CPR?
Yes, but I'm working on him.
All right, if you want to CPR, and just let me, you give us a call back, we can response, right, but we're on the way.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. McCabe, describe your mental state when you were speaking to 911.
I guess the best way to describe it was I was in shock. My heart was
Really? You
racing.
didn't sound so much.
I was trying to be as helpful as I could and get the information to the most important information out as quick as I could to the 911 operators, but also the scene there with Karen and Kerry was a bit chaotic between the two of them. So I was just trying my best to be as calm as I could, to get help there as fast as I could, and to answer their questions the best that I could.
in order to get
Before
help there the
you
fastest you
told the
could,
911 operator,
and yet you didn't go and bang on your sister's door whilst on the phone to 911. I mean, admittedly, yeah, sure, you want to be there to give instructions and that sort of thing. But after the guy says, "Oh, okay, well, we'll dispatch someone, do CPR until they get there, and let us know if anything changes." After that point, maybe, like when you take over from Kerry, even go and tell Kerry to bang on the door. It doesn't add up to me.
John O'Keefe's name and his age. You said there's a man in the snow. Do you know why you chose those words?
I think I just wanted to get out the most specific details. So a man in the snow versus, John O'Keefe and into a story. I think I just was get the details to them as fast as possible to get help there to him as fast as possible.
When you told the 911 operator that your friend John O'Keefe was the person lying in the snow, how did you know his age?
We used to joke because he was a couple months older than me. So I would, say, "Oh, you're older than me." It was a silly little thing between friends.
No, Black Horse, you're on the main channel. I added the word attorney to it because it seemed like a good idea. Guys, you can watch them whichever channel you like. I mean, for the moment, I'm not switching channels until I get the monetization on the backup channel anyway. So we're just going to take it as it comes and with the ebbs and the flows. So, all right, let's finish watching Horse Teeth live through them.
When you called the 911 operator, had Kerry and the defendant already been around or near John?
Yes.
Do you know if they had begun trying CPR before you called 911?
I'm not sure if they had, because Karen had straddled him and was lifted her shirt, was warming him up, and then Kerry was yelling at her to get off. And I think when Kerry got the blankets and was trying to put him under John, I think as she started to move him and wipe him, blood started to come out. And then Karen was afraid that he was going to choke on his blood and wanted to move him on his side. But then Kerry was yelling at her, "We can't move him." And this was kind of all going on while I was talking to 911.
You described what you saw, and you said at some point he was bleeding from the face area. Was that before or after he was moved?
After.
Before he was moved, did you see any active bleeding?
No.
So, wait, what? The blood was... So, when they found him at 6 a.m, his blood was still flowing. Like, I'm not an expert on this. If anyone in chat can correct me on this. But, I mean, if it's sub-zero temperature and you've got the coagulation factor of blood, like, is blood still going to flow after allegedly being in the snow for, 5-6 hours? I'm just curious. Like if that's something that happens, okay. It's not something that I'm aware of.
After you called 911, what do you do next?
I think I called my sister and she didn't answer. And then I think I called her as I was walking over to John and she didn't answer. And then I immediately got down on the ground and Kerry Roberts asked me to take over.
How long did you try to help John?
CPR. That makes sense.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
How long were you and the defendant and Ms. Roberts there before someone else arrived?
Police officer was the first to arrive. In the moments, it seemed like a long time, but I think it was fairly quick that they arrived.
Any point during the time when you tried to help Mr. O'Keefe and the first police officer arrived, at any point did you see any signs of life from Mr. O'Keefe?
No.
When the police officer first arrived, do you remember what happened next?
I remember it was very chaotic, but there was talk about a spotlight. And I remember, I think I got up and ran to kind of wave to get the police officer's attention so we could see where we were.
And then what happens?
The police officer, not sure specific. I do remember him asking about John. I think he said, "Is he a drug user?" He was just asking some basic questions.
And what's the environment? What's going on around you?
Karen's just running around crazy, like just yelling, screaming, kind of like a ping pong.
What are you trying to do?
I was just trying to talk to the officer I guess I just went into this like type of mode of, all right, I have to just talk to him, get the information out, figure out like how we can best help John and like what happened to him and try to save him ultimately.
And what happens next?
More officers begin to come, fire and EMT. So the scene becomes active with a lot of different presence. John, I think they lift John onto a board at one point. The officers are asking us questions. Karen's kind of coming over, talking to the questions, and then kind of just running away. And then she just runs back over. She's doing a lot of screaming, a lot of repetitive, is he dead? Is he dead? Is he dead? Could I have hit him? Did I hit him? Kerry, I think, Kerry's off kind of making phone calls, I believe, to John's family.
Do you know what time the first responders lifted John from the ground and put him on that bed?
I don't know a time, but it was...
Okay, that's the only question.
Okay.
You heard your 911 call. Do you know the time of that 911 call?
Not off the top of my head, no.
At some point, did you talk to a number of different people at the scene?
Yes.
And who were you talking to?
The first officer was Officer Saraf. I know I spoke with him. I spoke with an Officer Lank, an Officer Good. There were other officers. I don't remember their names. There were EMTs. I don't remember their names either.
You have lived in this area for a long time?
Yes.
You're active in the community?
Yes.
Did you know Sergeant Good from before that night?
I knew of him. I didn't know him personally.
Did you know Detective Lank?
Yes, I knew him.
How did you know him?
We were friendly.
Do children ever associate with each other?
Not until recently.
After you had a chance to speak to some of the officers, did you move around at all yourself?
Yes, I kind of, the officers would talk to us here and then a little bit over to the side. I tried to comfort Miss Reed. At one point, Miss Reed was very upset. And one of the officers thought it would be best if maybe she went and just sat in one of the cruisers for a little bit because she was just doing a lot of screaming and yelling. And I think they were just trying to, get, work on John and make the scene a little less chaotic. So I went into the back of the car with her, and Kerry Roberts came over. And then we all were just sat in the back of Karen and I kind of were scrunched and sitting in the back, and Kerry was at the door of the cruiser.
Why did you get in the car with the defendant?
She was crying. She asked me to get in. We held hands. We prayed. She did have blood on her hands, and she said, could I have gotten my period? Who's going to take care of the kids? She just kind of was all over the place.
So she was hysterical.
And then at one point, we saw them moving John towards the ambulance. And at that point, Miss Reed started yelling to Miss Roberts, go check on him. Are they working on him? Is he dead? Is he dead? And at that point, myself and Miss Reed got out of the car, and she started yelling and pulling on me to Google hypothermia and Google how long it takes for somebody, to die in the cold.
When the defendant first asked you to Google an inquiry about hypothermia, were you still inside the police cruiser or were you outside?
Outside.
Thank you,
What
Jude.
was the weather? I know it's an obvious question, but how cold was it?
It was very cold, windy. The snow was blowing. As I stated, I have multiple sclerosis. So when I'm out in either extremely hot or cold temperatures, I lose the feeling and sensation in my fingers, which obviously made the Googling very hard for me to do because of my, motor skills.
So when you were outside of the car with the defendant and she had asked you to do a search regarding hypothermia, did you try to do that?
Yes, I did.
Do you know the exact time from your memory? Not from reading or learning, but from your memory. Do you remember the exact time you did that?
No.
Was it after the police came that morning?
Yes.
Had you ever attempted to search about hypothermia any time before that moment, that morning?
No.
Or that day?
No.
That week?
No.
Was this the first time that morning after the defendant asked you to search that you searched that phrase?
Yes, it was.
And did you
Notice how he's worded that so that she can technically lie to the court? Is that the first time you searched hypothermia? He didn't ask. Is that the first time you searched "Hos long to die in cold"? Horse teeth can continue to lie through them.
complete your search and get a result?
So I don't know what came up because I think as I entered it, I think I misspelled things. And so then I think I tried a second search. And again, I don't think I even paid attention to what came up because we were already on to the next thing. Karen was already moving and screaming about, the next thing to Kerry. Are they working on him? Is he dead?
Did the defendant move somewhere from the point when she first asked you to try to Google about hypothermia to something else?
She was next to me and then I think she took off. Like she kept kind of running off.
And what did you do?
I believe as they were I think I stood there, I believe as they were putting John into the ambulance, I went back kind of to the original spot where we had been talking to the police. And at that point, a new officer might have come because I remember talking to multiple officers there.
At some point, did you go back towards the area of Ms. Roberts' car?
Yes, that's where I'm referring to. Sorry.
Well, I mean, Desert, she doesn't look human either,
Some
so
point.
I think I can pretty much use whatever accent I want for her.
At some point, were you with the defendant when she spoke to an officer and a first responder?
Yes.
Do you remember if the first responder was a man or a woman?
I remember there was a woman right next to us. Yes.
Remember if that was before or after the defendant asked you to search about hypothermia?
I'd be guessing if I then don't.
Don't guess.
Mm-hmm.
When the defendant was speaking to the first responder, the woman, were you near?
Yes.
Did you hear or do you remember the defendant saying anything to the first responder?
Yes.
What did she say?
She told the first responder, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him.
When she told the first responder, I hit him, how did you react?
I was like startled, kind of like, what are you saying? What are you talking about?
Did you say anything to the defendant?
They're making such a huge thing out of that, but in the context of the fact that this woman has been running around hysterical going, did I hit him? Did I hit him? Could I have hit him? Did I get my period? What? Why is there blood? Go and look at him. Go and check on him. Go to the fact that she said I hit him in that circumstance has significantly less value than they think it does. And I'm hoping that Jackson hammers home on that as part of either his closing or the cross. Because very clearly this hysterical woman may have just talked herself accidentally into a murder charge. Did I hit him? Oh my God, I hit him. She's freaking the fuck out. That's all that is, in my personal opinion.
Defendant?
I think after the second or third time she was saying it, I was like, Karen, like, what are you saying?
Why were you trying to interrupt her?
Because I thought she was just talking crazy. And I'm saying, why is she saying she hit him?
Oh, thanks for that, Buck. Whoa, that P plater's got somewhere to be. No, the kid did not ask if he was on his period.
Were you trying to look out for her?
Yeah.
Sustain. I'll strike it. You can ask it differently.
What was your motivation for trying to interrupt the defendant making the statements to the first responder?
Karen was hysterical, irrational, kind of.
I'll move on.
Okay, I'm going to see counsel outside that for just a minute, please.
See, here's the thing. I'm thinking what happened is that... Okay, here's my theory that's evolving so far based on the evidence that they've provided in this case thus far. John and Karen go to the waterfall. They both have a few drinks. They agree to go to 34 Fairview. They maybe get into a bit of a spat in the car. He decides he's going to go in drinking without her. She stays in the car. Supposedly she stuck around because he was just going to go in, say hi or whatever else, and then leave. I don't know. Nope. Court is not interrupting my thoughts. He then comes back out towards the car. He slips. He falls. He smacks his head, maybe on a rock that has the word Albert painted on it. His phone doesn't then move, and at some point during the night, the poor guy who was frozen to death in the snow gets attacked by a badger. and that's how we wind up with the claw marks, or a feral dog. I don't know how prevalent those are in Canton, Massachusetts. Maybe they let Chloe Maybe they let Chloe out to go and take a piss, and she ran up, scratched up his arm and leg and whatever else, and then went back inside. I don't know. Because even in the testimony she just gave, even in the testimony that Jen McCabe just gave, she said that even when the police were there on the scene at 6, the visibility was so low that she had to stand in the street and wave her arms to flag the cop down. If Karen's plastered, sitting in her car on the opposite side of the car to where the house would have been, the odds of her being able to see John as he's walking back to the car, or even after he falls onto the ground, in my opinion, is next to negligible. So I do think that there is a completely plausible explanation when none of the parties are involved that have actually committed murder. And I think probably what's happened is that Jen McCabe and the McAlberts have realized, oh, people might start pointing fingers at us. Well, when she was with the EMT, Karen said, I hit him, allegedly. So they decide to pin it on her so that they don't cop any flack because a guy died in their front yard. And then Proctor just made it a 1,000 times worse. So maybe it is just that they are horrible people, but that Karen's completely innocent. Anyway.
Yeah. After you made the search.
Okay, fair. I said badger because I was trying to think of an animal that was of a comparable size that might be out and about. A feral dog might be more realistic.
The defense request for an inquiry regarding hypothermia. Did you have a chance to speak to the officers further?
Yes.
Did they ask you to do anything or go anywhere?
Yes. Officer Lank asked me to go into my sister's house and to wake them up.
And your sister's name again?
My sister, Nicole.
And that is the house you were in the night before?
Yes.
And after you spoke to the officer, they requested you go in to speak to your sister, did you?
Yes.
Was there any directive on what you should speak to your sister about?
No.
After the officers asked you to go into the house, did you?
Yes, I did.
Do you remember what door you went through?
Yes, I went through the front door.
Was the door locked?
Yes.
How did you get in?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said, was it unlocked?
No, I asked if it was locked.
Oh, sorry. It was unlocked.
As you're approaching the house, were there any lights on?
No.
Was it dark?
Yes.
Any sign of any movement inside the house before you went in?
No.
Take us through walking through the front door. What happens?
So I went in the front door. I opened the door. I walked up the stairs into their hallway, and then I think I knocked on their door.
Bedroom door?
Their bedroom door. And then I opened the door. I went in and I walked over to the bed and I was like, Brian, Nicole. Because I was in a position where I felt like the world was going on around me. So much was happening. But I also was aware that I was just about to wake up 2 people that are sound asleep and they're going to see me standing over their bed and be startled, wondering, what am I doing here?
So what happens?
So it took a minute.
And this is where her story starts to fall apart to me. Because Chloe is allegedly in that room. There is no way in hell that a German Shepherd, previous police dog or not, is not going to know that you're coming up those stairs, is not going to know that you're opening that door, and is not going to start barking. There's no way in hell. Sorry.
Minute or two, and then Brian woke up and he immediately was like startled and was like, Jennifer, what's going on? What are you doing? And then I believe I tried the best I could to say what was going on. I think I said, we found John.
You don't need to describe
Okay.
again, but I want to know their reaction and your interaction with your sister and Brian Albert.
They woke up startled and confused.
Did you have a conversation with them?
Yes.
How long was that conversation?
Brief. They got up, got dressed. I spoke to them.
And where did you go and where did they go?
Then all three of us went down the stairs.
The upstairs to the downstairs?
Upstairs to downstairs,
The
yes.
upstairs is the second level, is downstairs the first level?
Yes.
As you come down the stairs, can you see the front door?
Yes.
Is there anybody in the house at that point?
I saw Officer Lenk.
In the house?
Yes.
Do you know if he had been invited in?
I was
have no
going to say
idea.
the police officer
When you
just
came down the
walks in.
stairs and saw Officer Lank, where was your sister and Brian Albert?
They were walking with me down the stairs.
Did you see whether or not the officer spoke with your sister and your brother?
He did.
Brother-in-law? I'm
He
sorry.
did. He did. Yes.
Were you there during that conversation?
No.
How long was that conversation? Do you know?
Not sure.
Where did you go when the officer was speaking to your sister and your brother-in-law inside their home?
I was standing at the front doorway, and then my husband Matt had just arrived.
What happened next?
I started talking to Matt, and almost immediately, Officer Lang came, got Matt, and asked if he could talk to him outside.
At this point, I want to go back and show you some video.
Why would he
Have you
want to
seen
talk
video
to
in this
Matt
case
if he
before?
just arrived?
Yes.
I'd like to ask the court's permission to display Exhibit 4, and I would like to walk through some of the video.
Okay.
Ms. Gilman, if you kindly put on Exhibit 4. I'd like to start at 6:09:57.
Chloe was known for being friendly. Oh yeah, real friendly.
Ms. Gilman, if you can take us to the arrival at Fairview.
Oh, hello. Petrol's dropped in price. 169. That's down what? 5-6 cents. Oh, damn it! Busload of Asian tourists is taking up my spot, so I'm going to drop out for a minute. I'll see you all on the other side.
Could you stop there, please? Ms. McCabe, do you recognize this scene?
Yes.
Is that morning?
Yes.
The car directly in front of this dash cam, do you know whose vehicle that is?
Carrie Roberts.
On the left, we see somebody with a blue parka or jacket. Do you know who that is?
I believe that's me.
Can you continue to play, please? Can you stop there, please? Does that fairly depict your first interaction with law enforcement?
Yes.
Do you see the flagpole in that video?
Yes.
And is that the area where you found John?
Yes.
I'd like to move forward in the video. If we can move forward to 6:14:45, please. Did you stop there? Can you identify people on that video from right to left, if you can?
I don't know the officer. That's myself. I believe behind me, that's Miss Reed.
And this is about, let me get the time correctly. 6:14:47. And do you know where John is at this point?
Are they lifting him to the left?
Could you continue, please, Ms. Gilman? Could you stop there? The person all the way to the left near the flagpole. Do you know who that is?
I believe Carrie Roberts.
And is that the area where John was found?
Yes.
And that's at 6:15 a.m.? If you don't know, that's okay. Do you know what Ms. Roberts was doing at 6:15 a.m.?
My guess is
I
that
don't want you to guess. Just if you
I
know.
don't know.
Okay. Now, you're over to the right. Is that you?
Yes.
Okay. Continue, please. Does that carry on the left?
Yes.
Stop, please. On the right, do you see yourself?
Yes.
And which person are you?
I'm the one next to the one with the fluorescent yellow.
Is your back to us?
Yes.
To the right in yellow. Do you know who that is?
I don't.
Okay. Continue, please. Continue. Stop, please. Do you see the defendant move from the right to the left?
Yes.
Do you see the yellow jacket?
Yes.
Do you know whether or not that's the woman first responder?
I believe so. Yes.
Do you know why the officer moved the defendant over to from right to left?
I don't.
Okay, continue, please. Stop. At that part, is there a conversation between the defendant and the first responder?
Yes.
Are you listening?
Yes.
Continue. Stop. Do you see the officer that was with you in that group?
Yes.
Do you see him now turned away from the group speaking to somebody else?
I do.
Continue, please. Thank you. If you could move ahead to 619, please.
And we're back. Wait, am I back? Yes.
Is that you, Ms. McCabe and Ms. Roberts?
Yes.
I bought a Krensky and pastry, so I'm getting camera off for the moment. You guys don't need to see me eating a sausage.
Is that Ms. Roberts?
Yes.
Stop for a moment. Do you know at which point you went to the officer's car and sat in the back with Ms. Reed?
I believe it's right after this.
Can you continue, please? Is that Ms. Roberts?
Yes.
Stop, please. Was it before or after that moment that you sat with the defendant and Ms. Roberts stood outside the car and you prayed?
I'm not exactly sure from
Okay.
that video.
That's fine. If we could move forward to 62340, please. At this time, are you still with the defendant behind this car in some spot?
Yes, I am.
Is it during this time, 6:23 and 6:24, you tried to make those searches at the defendant's request?
Yes.
Ms. Gilman, if you can move forward to 6:20, 6:15. Pause, please. Ms. McCabe, did you see anybody returning to Ms. Roberts' car in that area?
Yes.
And who did you see?
I saw myself, and I'm standing outside of the car speaking to Officer Lank. I saw Kerry go up and near her car. I'm not sure if she went into it. And I saw someone walk Miss Reed into the car.
Is it around this time you have a conversation with Mr. Lank?
Yes.
And what does he tell you again around this time?
He's at this point, I think, asking me questions about what had happened. And then soon after, he asks me to go into my sister's house.
Ms. Gilman, if you can fast forward to 6:34:15, please. Stop, please. You described that the house had no lights on. Is that a fair depiction of,
Yes.
of the view?
Yes.
Did you see a figure walking up the driveway?
Not on this pause clip, but I did see it. Yes.
Let's play it and see if you can identify.
Yes, I can see myself walking up.
Where are you now?
I'm walking up the path to go up to the stairs into the house.
And this is at the request of Officer Lank?
Yes.
And you described first you went in and woke up your sister and brother-in-law?
Yes.
Could we move forward to 6:39, please?
Honestly, Achiro, the defense hasn't yet convinced me that she's innocent, but it hasn't been proven that she's guilty. That's where I'm sitting at the moment. Do I think she committed the acts? No. Do I think it's been proven? No. But my opinion on that's really negligible and doesn't really matter. So
Stop. And do you see something happen with the house at that point?
Yes.
And what happens?
Light went on.
I'll note it's 6:39:08. Thank you, Ms. Gilman. After first responders took John and you had gone in your sister's house, what did you do next?
Next, after Officer Lank spoke to my husband, Kerry Roberts, her and I had a conversation. She was going to go pick up John's parents in Braintree. At first, I had told her I would go with her, but then Officer Lank said that one of us had to stay at Fairview to speak to the, I believe it was the state troopers that would be coming.
Did you stay at Fairview?
I did, yes.
What was your mental state at that point?
Again, I was in shock. The best way I can describe it is the feeling of I'm present and everything's going on around me, and I'm just trying to process and make sense of everything.
Did you speak to your sister about what happened?
Yes.
Did you speak to your brother-in-law about what happened?
Yes.
And were they giving you any comfort or support?
Yes.
yeah, okay. I just said was word salad because I was focusing on the sausage. let me be very clear, people. As with any criminal trial, the default position is that the defendant is innocent. It's up to the prosecution to prove whether or not they committed the acts. Do I think thus far that the prosecution has proved that she did it? No. So the default position is she's innocent. Shut up, Mrs. Kedgriff. Why would only one of them need to stay? They both had separate, unique experiences. I presume that's probably just for logistics purposes. The state troopers were already on their way. They needed at least someone to be there to talk to them when they arrived. Otherwise, it's just a waste of everybody's time, really. Because the idea was that whoever was going to go would be bringing John's parents with them, presumably. So, I don't know.
They were being very comforting and supportive.
As you were waiting at Fairview, did anybody else come to the house?
When my husband, Matt, had arrived. A little while later, Julie Albert had arrived. She was dropping something off, and then Brian Sr. called her in.
Is Julie Albert the wife of Chris Albert?
Yes, she is.
And Brian Albert and Chris Albert are brothers?
Correct.
When she arrived, did you talk to her?
Yes.
Were you in a group? Were you talking to people privately?
No, we were all sitting around the kitchen table.
And why were you talking to everybody?
We were trying to figure out what had happened. They were trying to be supportive, trying to help me.
What was your mood?
I was extremely concerned. I was calling Kerry, trying to get updates about John. I was worried about John, his family, about Kaylee.
At that point, did you know whether John was going to live?
I had a very strong, I think deep down I knew that John was gone. But, you know, this, until you hear it, I think there was that little bit of hope maybe.
Did you speak to anybody but Kerry who was not at the home that morning?
I believe I spoke, yeah, Miss Reed.
You had a conversation?
Yes, I spoke to her when she was in the ambulance.
Did you speak to her again later that day?
No, I think I texted her asking her for Kerry's number because I didn't have it.
Did you hear back?
No,
Did you ever speak to Miss Reed again?
no, I've never spoken to her again.
When you were trying to get information from Kerry and you were in Fairview, did anybody else other than the people you've described arrive at Fairview?
Chris Albert, Brian Higgins showed up and Chris Albert.
Did you know Brian Higgins?
I knew him as a friend of Brian's.
Did you see him at the waterfall that night before?
Yes, I did.
And after you arrived at Fairview that night, after leaving the waterfall, was Brian Higgins one of the people there?
Yes,
And did you talk about what had happened in front of Brian Higgins as well?
yes.
Was there a group discussion?
I wouldn't say discussion. I would just say, like, for instance, someone would ask me a question because everybody just, this didn't make sense to anybody. No one knew what had happened.
Agreed.
So just move on.
And so was there a lot of questions about what you saw and heard?
Yes,
You mentioned earlier that you felt like you were in a state of shock. Did you feel like you were still in that state, or were things changing mentally?
little by little, as I sat there, I started things started coming back to me that had been said to me earlier.
Did something significant come back to you about what happened earlier or what you heard?
Yes.
And what is that?
When Miss Reed stated to myself and the female, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him.
And did anything else over the course of that morning come back to you about that moment?
Throughout when I was still at Fairview or throughout the day?
Still at Fairview.
I believe that was maybe the main thing. I can't be sure what time, what memories came back.
When you remembered the defendant's statements to the first responder, did you decide to do something with that information?
Yes, Officer Lang had said if I, remembered anything or needed anything before the state, the state police came to give him a call.
Did you?
I did, yes.
And you knew Officer Lang?
I did, yes.
Were you comfortable calling him?
Yes, I was.
Did you tell him the information that you had remembered?
I just asked him to come back to Fairview.
Did he?
He did, yes.
When he came back, did you speak to him?
Yes, I did.
Were you with the group or were you alone?
No, I was with the group.
And did you tell him what you had remembered?
I did, yes.
How long did you stay at Fairview for?
Oh my god! Okay, I need to pull over. Okay, please be a spot up here. Okay. 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 All right. I know that this is really immature, and I try and steer clear of all the drama bullshit. But guys, you know how every morning I buy a bottle of Coke? Well, a little while ago they started putting names on the bottles of Coke here, saying share a Coke with such and such. I mean, I've seen some good ones. There's been Legend, there's been Buffet, there's been all sorts of things. But today, I've got Coke to share with Sean. I know it's inappropriate, I know it's immature, but come on, that's just funny. Like, it's immediately where my mind jumped. Anyway.
I believe somewhere between 11:30. I'm being approximate with my times. Officer Proctor called me
Excuse me.
from the state police.
Do you know how he got your number?
No.
Did you have a discussion with him?
He said he would like to come by and question me. And I'm not sure if he said at your house or if I said I need to go home because I had 4 kids at home that were still sleeping. And, I knew that I had to go home to them and eventually break this, news to them and comfort them. And I knew that was going to be a whole nother situation to deal with.
Did you speak to him on the phone before you went home or
A
after?
quick phone call. I'll see you at my house.
At that point, did you share any information with him?
No, not on the phone.
Did you return home?
I did,
Do
yes.
you remember about what time that was?
I'm going to say 11:30 or after, approximate.
General?
General, yeah.
When you got back home, did you have a meeting or speak with Mr. Proctor?
I did, yes.
Was it a phone call or an in-person conversation?
He came into my house with Officer Buchanan.
Okay. Him and Trooper Buchanan came
Yes.
in? Was there anybody else at your home?
My husband was home and my brother-in-law, Brian Albert, came over.
Did you speak to them?
Yes.
Did you tell them any additional information at that point?
The troopers or?
The troopers.
Yes. I know I had said what Karen had said to me, and then she had said I hit him. Could I have hit him? I told them how she showed up at my house. I just basically gave them the events of that morning.
At that point, did you mention anything about the defendant's broken taillight?
At that conversation, no.
Did they leave?
They did leave, yes.
At some point, did they reach out to you again, or did you reach out to them?
At some point, I had another conversation with them a few hours later. I'm not sure if they called me or if I called them.
Do you know what generally the content of that conversation was?
Yes, I had remembered that Karen had told me about her taillight.
As you're processing that morning, are you trying to think and recreate the event, or are you trying to put it out of your mind?
I couldn't get it out of my mind.
While you were at home, did you receive any updates from anybody, Kerry Roberts or anybody about John?
Yes, when I was still at the Alberts, Kerry had given me word that, John had passed. Then once I got home, I know different friends who were starting to hear.
Without saying that, without content, were you receiving contacts, calls, text
Yes.
messages from other people?
Yes,
And were you reaching back out to other people?
some, yes.
At some point, did you go over to Meadows Road?
On Sunday, I did, yes.
Was Sunday the next day?
Yes, it was.
Why did you go over to Meadows?
Kerry and I went over with my daughter and her daughter to see the family and to offer support and
You
our
said
sympathy.
You said you and Kerry. How did you get there?
Kerry picked me up.
Prior to that evening, you and Kerry, you described, weren't friends or familiar.
Correct.
Were things changing?
Yes, rapidly.
When she picked you up, who else did she pick up with you?
My daughter, who is Kaylee's friend.
And was anybody else, or any of Miss Roberts' family in the car?
Yes, her daughter was in the car as well.
So it was you, Miss Roberts, and your 2 daughters?
Yes,
You said you went to Meadows.
Yes.
Why did you go there?
to offer our condolences, sympathy, support, to be with the family. I love them.
Were they staying at Meadows?
They were at Meadows, yes.
When you went there that next day, can you describe the traffic and the people that were there?
There was a house full of family, friends, coworkers, loved ones. The car repairman, like anyone and everyone.
Did you ever see the defendant?
No.
While you're at the house, did you have a chance to speak to Miss O'Keefe?
Yes, I did.
At some point that day, did you leave the house?
Yes.
Who did you leave with?
Kerry and
Wait, on the Sunday? Did you see the defendant? Wasn't she still on a psychiatric hold at that point? How long does a Section 12 last in Massachusetts? For here, it's like 24, 48 hours. Way to make it sound untoward.
and my daughter stayed to be with Kaylee, and we left with her daughter.
Where did you go?
We were heading home, but then we ended up dropping off her daughter at her friend's house.
Now, who's her daughter?
Don't
Don't give me a name. Carrie's daughter?
Carrie's daughter, yes.
And was Carrie's daughter friends with any of the Lanks?
Yes, Carrie's daughter's good friends with Mike Lank's daughter.
When Miss Roberts drove over to Mr. and Mrs. Lank's house, did you meet anybody?
Yes, her daughter, Carrie's daughter, went in the house, and Mrs. Lank came out. Her and Carrie are very good friends, so she came out to offer support and condolences.
Was it still cold outside?
Yes, it was freezing.
When she was offering her support, was she inside or outside of the car?
She jumped into the back seat.
During that time you spent with Officer Lank's wife, did you ever go into the house?
I have a faint memory. I think I went in and used the bathroom at one point.
When you were having the conversation with Mr. Lank's wife, were you talking about what had happened?
Yes, Carrie was just explaining the morning, the phone calls, the scene, things like that.
Were you trying to get any type of inside information or push the investigation in any particular direction?
No, I didn't speak much. It was mostly Carrie and Trish was just being a supportive friend to Carrie.
At some point, did you get together with Miss Roberts and try to memorialize what you had saw or thought that morning?
Yes.
Why did you do that?
Peg had asked Carrie to do a timeline. So Carrie came over and we were sitting down talking about it. And so my sister was there and she said that she would jot it down for us.
So when you got together, it was at the request of Mrs. O'Keefe?
Yes.
Damn it!
When she made that request, did you ask you to do that? Question why?
No, she wanted us to do it, so I did it.
Why?
She wanted us to remember and try to jot down everything we remembered so we wouldn't forget.
I'm going to sustain district.
Did you speak to officers further in the future?
Yes,
Can you count how many times you spoke with police or the interviews you had?
there were a lot, or a good amount, I should say.
At some point, did any of the police officers ask if they could take your phone and copy everything on it?
Yes,
Did you have any hesitation about that?
Objection.
Were you cooperative?
yes.
Why?
I wanted to help in any way I could.
May I approach?
Yes.
Hand you a piece of paper. Do you recognize that?
Yes, I do.
And what is it?
That's my signature.
Do you know what that document is?
Yes, it's the consent form that I signed for my phone.
I'd like to introduce this as an exhibit.
Any objection?
Yes, Your Honor, we can deal with it sidebar. I have no objection to the identification of it. When we did it, I have no objection.
Okay, I'll see what's on that.
What I said before was I was being a bit of a dick and insinuating that Peggy was in on the conspiracy by being the one to ask them to get their story straight. But I mean, to be perfectly honest, it's not unreasonable for someone to say, "Hey, can we get a timeline of exactly what happened? I'd like to know how my son died." So.
After that day when you met with Miss Roberts, and you try to memorialize your memory about what had happened, after that date, have you discussed what happened that morning with other people?
Yes.
And have you discussed it with police over time?
Yes.
I have no further questions at this time.
Oh, yes. I wasn't sure if I'd get too much into the cross-examination on this trip.
Good morning, Ms. McCabe.
Good morning.
When was the last time you spoke
Here we
with Carrie
go.
Roberts before your testimony today?
She called me last night.
What did y'all discuss?
She asked if my daughters were going to be staying home from school today because her daughter would possibly join them.
Did you discuss anything having to do with your testimony?
Not my testimony, no.
Did you discuss anything in that conversation with her prior testimony?
No.
Are you aware that she testified last week?
Yes.
Did you discuss anything after that, after she testified with her about her testimony?
No.
We know that through her testimony that you had a conversation with her the morning that she testified.
Yes.
Right? Did you discuss what you anticipated to be her testimony in that conversation before she testified?
No.
Have you and Ms. Roberts ever discussed anything about either one of your testimonies, either in the last proceeding or in anticipation of this proceeding?
No.
So for the entirety of the last year,
Oh, shit.
even though you both went through a proceeding last year where you both testified under oath, and it was highly, highly publicized, neither one of you, your good friend Carrie Roberts and you, have ever discussed either of your testimonies between that time and this time.
No, we've discussed the case and we've discussed what happened that moment, the moments of the morning, but we have not discussed testimony.
Okay, so let's break that down for a second. I'm talking about, because the timing matters. I'm just asking at this point, if you'll bear with me, just the year from last year at a different proceeding to this year, you have discussed this case
Yes.
with Ms. Roberts.
Many times, yes.
And you've discussed the specifics of her memory, which would be reflected in her testimony, correct?
We talked about what happened that morning.
So you were talking about what she remembers happening that morning, correct?
No, what happened that morning.
Okay, so not to put too
Oh,
fine a
for
point on it,
fuck's
Mr.
sake.
King,
Here we
but
go.
if you ask me what I had for dinner last night, it's my memory of what I had for dinner last night. Would you agree with that?
Sustained.
Did you talk about her perception of what happened that morning during the last year?
We've talked about what has happened, yes.
Okay, so I'm trying to break it down between you and Ms. Roberts. You've discussed her perceptions and her memory of what happened, as well as, and separate and apart from, your memory and your perceptions, correct?
Correct.
So there have been circumstances in which you and Ms. Roberts have compared, by definition, what she remembers versus what you remember, correct?
I wouldn't say compare.
Now let's move to what would you say in terms of what you've discussed and why?
I would say that we've both talked about what we've discussed, but it wasn't like a comparison. We weren't comparing anything.
You've talked about what you discussed. What does that mean? Talked about your testimony?
No, we've discussed what happened that moment and in those moments. So, when I got a phone call, and that's
So you've
my
added to each other's memories
That's
of
I got a phone call in the morning, and then Carrie can say, "Yeah, I got a phone call as well."
As you said, that's your story,
Not
correct?
my story. It's
Those
the
were
truth.
yours.
It's the truth.
Okay. So for instance, when you got a phone call at 4:53 in the morning, Carrie Roberts wasn't there, correct?
Correct.
But you discussed that with her.
Correct.
And you told her what your perception of that, your memory of that phone call was, even though she was not recipient to and did not witness that phone call, correct?
I've told her about the phone call. Correct.
As well as many other details that she was not privy to personally, correct?
Correct.
Conversations that you've had, for instance, conversations that you claim you've had with Miss Reed, correct?
Correct.
And you've told her what your perception is of those conversations, or your memory was or is of those conversations with Miss Reed, correct?
Which conversations with Miss
Any
Reed?
conversations, just anything that she wasn't privy to. You've discussed that with her.
Some things, yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
And conversely, Ms. McCabe, obviously, she's also discussed certain perceptions and memories that she has about this case, and the facts of this case, as she recalls them, that you were not necessarily privy to, correct?
Yes.
Things that may have taken place outside your presence, correct?
Correct.
And you've talked about things, she's talked to you about things, now I'm getting myself confused. Y'all have talked about things that were outside of her perception and outside of your perception, and you've shared those with each other.
We've shared our experiences. We've become very close. We both lived through a traumatic experience.
How many times would you say you and Ms. Roberts have discussed your
becomes a shock and horror.
individual perceptions of what you remember happening on the 28th or the 29th of January 2022? How many times?
It would be hard to put a number on that. We talk about, it's hard. We're bonded. We talk about the trauma that we relive every day. Karen called us for help and we both answered the phone.
And that bonding is the glue that holds you two together. Is this case, correct?
Yes.
So that probably, by definition, is the foundation of many, many, many of your conversations. Would you agree?
We've grown into friends where we talk about many other things
Sure.
besides the case.
Sure, the movie you saw last weekend and what the kids are doing next week.
Yes, and yes, absolutely. We
Okay,
talk
so-
many different things, just like girlfriends do.
I'm just concerned with and asking you about the subject matter of this case, the details and the facts of this case. You two have probably talked hundreds of times, that's fair to say, about your individual perceptions, your respective perceptions of this case, correct?
This happened 3 years ago and we've talked about it time and time again. This case has traumatized us, so
And
it's a huge
talking
part
about-
of our lives.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I believe it just traumatized our lives.
Okay. It would be impossible for you two to have had so many conversations about your respective perceptions of the details of that day without that influencing the other person, correct? You've somehow been influenced by Miss Roberts's perceptions and her memories, correct?
I don't think I would say influenced.
Would you say that she's been influenced by your perceptions and your memories?
Objection.
Would you say that, Ms. McCabe?
No, I wouldn't.
Next question.
How many times have
No,
you
why would
met with anybody from the DA's office? And I'm just going to limit the time frame right now in anticipation of your appearance in this trial, yesterday and today.
I'd say roughly 4 or 5.
Can you give me a time frame when those 4 or 5 meetings were?
I don't have dates. I do remember at one point I met with Mr. Brennan. He was new to the case. So I went in and he introduced himself.
How long ago was that?
I
Weeks or months?
I can't give you a time frame. I'm sorry.
Do you think it was last summer?
No,
Do you think it was?
no, it was more recent.
Okay.
Yeah,
It wasn't in the fall of last year.
No,
It was in 2025 sometime?
I believe so. Yes.
You think it might have been February, January?
Again, I can't give you an exact. I'm sorry.
All right. I want to talk about the timeframes of those conversations, and I'll ask you a little bit more about
Back
those
off
conversations. So that was
cross-examination.
the first meeting that you had was with Mr. Brennan in anticipation of your testimony. What were the subsequent 4 meetings or so that you've had? With whom and approximately what time?
Okay, so another meeting with Mr. Brennan. Are you looking for who was
Sure.
there?
Who else was there?
I mean, can I give you a general answer? I didn't write down like every meeting who was there, but
course.
generally, okay.
Was Mr. Lally there?
During 1 or 2 of the meetings, he was, yes.
Was Ms. McLaughlin there?
Yes.
Was there anybody else from the DA's office there?
The officer or trooper Tully was there at one. Trooper Buchanan was there at one. The witness advocates were there. And again, give or take the particular meeting.
Those are 2 meetings that you've talked about with Mr. Brennan and others. What about the 3rd meeting?
No, I'm sorry. I was lumping a few of them together.
Sure,
I
understood.
apologize.
How many meetings would you have? Let's just start there. How many meetings have you had with Mr. Brennan and either staff or colleagues?
So after the first initial meeting, I
Right.
would say, again, I didn't write them down off the top of my head. I can think of 2 or 3 more after that.
Okay.
Excuse me, first initial one.
So that's either 4 or 5 meetings with Mr. Brennan and some combination of his colleagues, Mr. Lally, Ms. McLaughlin, perhaps, Mr. Nelson, perhaps,
Yes.
the other employee of the DA's office, and Troopers Buchanan and Trooper Tully.
Correct.
You asked questions about at any of these meetings. I'm just going to lump them all together. Any
Okay.
of these 5 meetings. By the way, when was the most recent?
Last night, I had a Zoom call in regards, I think the court asked them to,
Yes, I'm
Yeah,
going to stop you right there.
oh, okay.
I'm going to ask a different question, and if you don't mind, I'm just going to lead you through this question.
Okay.
You had a conversation last night. I'm not interested in that particular conversation.
I'm sorry, what? The DA's office had a Zoom call with the witness that's currently on the stand at the request of the court? Excuse me? What fucked up kind of sideways bullshit is that?
Conversation. That was for a very specific purpose. I'm asking you about everything leading up to, but not including last night's conversation, okay?
Okay.
So let's just leave that one out. you had, I think you mentioned either 4 or 5 other meetings with Mr. Brennan and some combination of his colleagues and or law enforcement.
Yeah, and I might have, in the 5, included that one from last night.
Okay, fair enough. Were you asked questions in those, we're just going to call it 4 meetings. Were you asked questions during those 4 meetings about your testimony at the first proceeding last year?
I reviewed my, I did review some of my testimony, yes.
In what format?
I watched.
Paper transcript or?
No, we just watched a little bit of it.
Do you watch your direct examination?
A little bit, yes.
Did you watch your cross-examination?
A little, yes.
Who cross-examined you?
You did.
That was me.
Yes.
And did you watch the redirect or any part of it?
No.
Did you watch any part of any subsequent version of recross or additional questions that you were asked?
I don't believe so, no.
Was there a specific area that Mr. Brennan asked you to look at and review in terms of your direct or your cross-examination?
No.
Did you watch the entirety of the direct examination and the entirety of the cross-examination?
I do not believe so, no.
Were you questioned by Mr. Brennan following your review of that direct and cross-examination?
No.
So he didn't ask you any questions about any of your answers?
I don't, he showed me a dash cam and would ask me to point out who's this, who's that, a waterfall video, is this you, is this somebody? Those were the type of questions that he asked me.
What about any discussion about your demeanor and how you performed in the last proceeding? Objection.
Sustained.
I'll ask it a different way. What about your demeanor? I'm using probably a poor word, perform, how you came across your demeanor in the last proceeding. Objection.
Sustained.
Did you discuss changing your demeanor in any way, shape, form, or fashion from the last trial to, the last proceeding to this trial, my mistake. From the last proceeding to this trial, was your demeanor ever discussed?
No, I was just told to slow down, answer the question, and, answer it to the best of my memory.
Was there any discussion about talking about your background, for instance, your family and your children and being a sports mom, as you talked about in your direct examination?
No, I believe I did that in the
Sure as shit sounded
previous
like
one
it.
as well.
Was there any discussion about crafting your testimony in any way to suggest a softer approach?
No.
Was there any discussion about how to develop your testimony from beginning to end?
Sustained.
Did Mr. Brennan ask you about, or let me ask it a different way. Did Mr. Brennan take you through a series of questions, for instance, as almost a test run of questions that you might be asked either on direct examination or cross-examination?
No.
Did you practice your testimony with any member of the DA's office?
No.
Were there any sessions where you sat and was subjected to a cross-examination, like a fake cross-examination or a fake direct examination?
No, there
Anything
wasn't.
like that?
No.
What were the things that stand out in your mind? You said you had at least 4 meetings. How long was each meeting, by the way, ish?
The first meeting, I think, was fairly quick. It was just the introduction.
30 minutes, less than 30 minutes?
I don't want to give a time because I'm not sure,
Okay.
but I was fairly quick, yes.
Okay. What about the second meeting?
Again, I don't know specific meetings, but I can tell you that there was a longer one where I did watch some dash cam video, look at different pictures, things like that.
What kind of pictures did you look at, other than the dash cam video?
The pictures of John's house.
Okay. The same photos that we saw today?
Yes.
How long in total would you say all of those meetings were? Just taking them all together.
I really can't give you an estimate. I think the first one was fairly quick. The second one, one of them was a little bit longer, maybe a couple hours.
Okay. Then the third one, was that also a couple hours, or was that one fairly quick?
That was fairly quick, yes.
So fair to say between 2, 3, 4 hours total meeting times?
Again, I'd have to probably go back and look at the date and the time. I really can't give you a specific amount of time. I apologize.
Did Trooper Tully or Trooper Buchanan ask you any questions during the course of any of these meetings?
Regarding the case, no, but we did briefly talk about how my kids were, how their kids were.
But they didn't ask you any questions about your testimony, about the case, about your memories, about specific facts?
I do not believe so, no.
During any of these meetings, was anybody taking notes? Ms. McLaughlin, Mr. Lally, Mr. Brennan, any of the troopers?
No, I don't believe so.
So there was several hours worth of meetings with you, and nobody scribed any.
Several hours of meetings and not a single note was taken. Either those meetings were the record so that no one could specifically say what happened in those meetings, or she's lying through her teeth.
Any notes that you saw?
None that I saw, no.
And these meetings were not recorded?
I do not believe so, no.
Ms. McCabe, I'm going to ask you a series of questions about your family because I just want to make sure it's crystal clear who's who. You're married to Matt McCabe, correct?
Yes.
Your sister is Nicole Albert.
Yes.
Nicole is married to Brian Albert.
Yes.
It was Brian Albert's home that you were at 34 Fairview that you arrived at where John's body was found, correct?
Yes.
The same home where that late night gathering was on January 28th going into the morning of the 29th, correct?
Yes.
Would you consider yourself to be close with your sister Nicole and Brian?
Yes, very close.
Your families are, it's not just you and Nicole, your whole families are close, correct?
Yes, we have a very close family.
How long have you known Brian Albert?
Since I was in kindergarten.
You consider him, even though he is not blood related to you, you consider him family.
Yes.
In addition to Brian and Nicole Albert, you're also very close with Chris and Julie Albert, correct?
Yes.
Just to be clear, and I'm going to do this slowly,
Okay.
Brian Albert's younger brother is Chris Albert, correct?
Yes.
Chris Albert is married to Julie Albert.
Yes.
You consider Chris and Julie family, even though there may not be a blood relation as well, correct?
Yes.
Chris Albert is a Canton Select Board member, is that right?
Now he is, yes.
And the Canton, that's in Canton? I said Select Board member. Did I mention Canton Select Board member?
It is in Canton,
Okay.
yes.
All right. Obviously, it's in Canton. The Canton Police Department reports to the Select Board, correct?
I'm not aware.
You're not aware of that echelon?
No.
Okay. You're aware that Brian Albert, your friend of, I'm not going to say how many years, but since kindergarten, was a Boston police officer.
Yes.
He had been a lifetime law enforcement officer for some 30 years before he retired recently, correct?
Yes.
He's a trained first responder, obviously.
Yes.
Brian Albert and Chris Albert have another brother named Kevin Albert, correct?
Yes.
Kevin Albert is a detective with a police department, correct?
Yes, I believe that's his title. I'm not
Which
100%.
which police department is Kevin Albert associated with?
Canton.
And you've grown up in Canton your whole life, you indicated.
Yes.
Your entire family has grown up in Canton, correct?
Yes.
And you, Ms. McCabe, have three sisters. Nicole, we've talked about. You also have a sister named Shelley, is that right?
Michelle, yes.
Michelle?
Mhm.
And Denise, who you mentioned in your direct examination.
Yes.
Nicole is also known by nickname, is that right?
Yes.
What is Nicole's nickname within the family?
Coco.
Does Shelley also have a nickname? Well, I guess Shelley is the
Yeah,
shortened
Shelley
name for
is.
Michelle, correct?
Yes.
What about Denise?
She's Dee Dee.
Dee Dee?
Yeah. Deedee.
Your father lives close by in a neighboring town, correct?
Yes.
Don't tell me the town, but it's relatively close to Canton.
20 minutes, yes.
Okay. His name is Tom Weeks.
Yes.
There are, I'm not going to go through all of them right now because the family tree is getting large, but there are children, cousins, second cousins, nephews, aunts, uncles. There's a combination of familial relations within that set of folks that I just talked about, Chris and Brian and Nicole and you and Matt and the folks that we've just talked about.
Yes.
That family, that large family celebrates holidays together, I'm guessing?
We don't typically, celebrate with Kevin and Chris, but my family does, yes.
Along with Brian, Albert, and Nicole.
Yes, of course.
Birthdays are celebrated within that family.
Yes.
Go on vacations together, I'm guessing.
Yes.
Gatherings like the one on the 28th.
Yes.
Special events.
Yes.
Spend weekends together.
Yes.
You mentioned a lot of sporting events. There's a lot of sporting events that y'all go to together.
Yes.
So it is very, very easy to see that it's an extremely close-knit family.
Yes.
And naturally, you're very protective of your family, as anybody would be.
Yes, I love my family.
You also said that you knew, and your words, liked Karen Reed, my client, on the 28th of January 2022, correct?
Yes.
But she very much is not family, correct?
Correct.
She certainly was not as important to you as your actual family, the Alberts, the McCabe's, the folks associated with them. Is that right?
Yes.
On January 28th, 2022, members of the Albert family and the McCabe family all went to a bar together, had drinks together that night. Waterfall, we've heard a little bit about that, correct?
Correct.
Ultimately went back to your sister's house for the after party that we've heard so much about. That was at Brian Albert's house, is that right?
Yes.
Oh, you asshole.
You've been interviewed. I think you indicated multiple times. You didn't even
Fuck
get a number
you.
of how many times you've been interviewed by police in this case. Is that right?
Yes.
Your family is connected to people at Boston Police Department. We just talked about that. Brian Albert. Is that right?
Well, was a Boston police officer.
Right. So when I say connected, there is some familial or family or friendly connection to that police agency, Boston Police Department. It'd be Brian Albert in this case, correct?
The objection sustained.
There's also a connection to the Massachusetts State Police through your family. Is that right?
Objection.
So define connection.
Julie and Chris Albert are very, very
Does
close
someone
to you.
within your family
Right.
I'm
work
close
for
with
state
Julie
police?
Parsons.
You're aware that Michael Proctor's sister, Courtney, is basically best friends with Julie.
No, I'm not aware of that. She's best friends with Julie's sister, Jillian.
Okay, so Courtney's best friends with Jillian, who's sisters to Julie,
Yes.
who's married to Chris, who's an Albert, who's the little brother of Brian Albert.
Yes.
Okay, and Canton Police Department. There's also some connections there as well. Kevin Albert being the most obvious of them.
Objection.
I'm going to allow that. Do you have a connection with the Canton Police Department?
Not with the department, but with Kevin Albert.
Right, who's a member of the department.
Yes, but my relationship's with him.
Understood. You've indicated that you've been interviewed by law enforcement agents associated with Massachusetts State. With Canton Police Department. That'd be Officer Lank.
Yes.
Can I
and
stop
also
you for a
good.
second and see counsel at sidebar, please?
Sure.
Funny how she put an end to that question, that line of questioning, pretty damn quick. I wonder if it was eventually going to wind up with, are you aware whether or not Judge Beverly Canoni has any connections with the DA office through Michael Morrissey and her parents? Yes, it absolutely should have been a different judge. I'm very much a big proponent of the fact that if a trial does end in a mistrial, it should be handballed off to a new judge, because the judge themselves has already been through the trial. They have already developed an inherent bias. And when the judicial officer is supposed to be completely impartial, in my opinion, it's a necessity for a round robin to take place and for trials to switch. All right, I'm just paying attention because I need to get around this guy. I'm majorly running late because of those trucks. Like, holy crap. Paul's wife showed up to the trial today? No shit. God, they're taking ages at this side.
Please rise for the jury. Jurors, right this way, please, with your notebooks and chairs.
Wait, what? Is that the lunch break, or are they taking a... Hang on, I gotta go back and re-listen.
So we'll see in about 20 minutes.
Please rise for the jury. Jurors, right this way, please, with your notebooks and
Morning break. Alright, what do I do here? I can't afford to pull over, but I also... I'm just gonna have to use the remote. You're just gonna have to bear with me till we get there. $40 minutes? Fudge. Whoops. Alright, I'll have to get onto the wife and see whether or not she can move the trial ahead for me then, because I can't afford to stop and pull over and do it manually. Oh, good. Thankfully, she hasn't left for work yet.
Counsel, sidebar, please.
Seriously, they come back from a break and go directly to a sidebar? Bloody hell.
Go right ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. When last we left off, we were talking a little bit about some of the familial connections that your family has with certain law enforcement agencies. We talked about Boston Police Department, obviously, Brian Albert. We talked a little bit about Massachusetts State Police and knowing friends of friends with regard to Chris and Julie, correct?
Yeah.
Knowing friends of Chris and Julie.
Friends of friends of Chris and Julie.
Is that your relationship?
With who?
I'd asked you about. I'll ask you a different question.
Okay.
A little bit vague. Courtney Proctor is friends with Julie's sister,
Yes.
and obviously Courtney also knows Julie and Chris, correct?
Sustained.
And there's also a connection to Canton Police Department through Kevin Albert. Is that right?
Yeah.
Can you answer that? Is there a connection? Do you have a connection with the Canton Police Department through Kevin Albert?
Not with the police department, but Kevin Albert is Brian Albert's brother,
Right. And Kevin works for whom?
the Canton Police.
Thank you. So you've been interviewed many times by different law enforcement agencies, be they Massachusetts State Police, Canton Police, or otherwise, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Those interviews have not just been over the period of weeks, it's been over the period of weeks and months and even years since this occurred, correct?
Yes.
You were contacted by another law enforcement agency that was not Massachusetts State Police and not Canton Police Department at one point in April of 2023. Do you remember that?
Yes.
I want to talk for a second about that series of interview or that interview. You were contacted at your residence by these members of this law enforcement agency, correct?
Yes.
All right. Later that same day, you did sit down with those same law enforcement officers for a formal interview.
On that.
On that same day that you were contacted by them, they also went into your home and actually interviewed you, correct?
Yes, it was brief.
All right. Those law enforcement officers identified themselves as being associated with an agency that is not Massachusetts State Police. You understood that.
Yes.
And you understood that they were not involved with Canton Police Department either, correct?
Correct.
Completely separate agency, is that right?
Yes.
During the course of that interview, those officers informed you.
Sorry, it just twigged to me what he's doing. What the rings that he has to do right now. Oh God, pull off this gymnastics, Jackson, and I'll kiss you. Jesus. Good luck.
Very specifically, Ms. McCabe, that it is a crime to lie to them, even during an interview, correct?
Yes.
Those law enforcement officers informed you that they were investigating certain circumstances attendant to John O'Keefe's death, correct?
They were very vague on what they were.
Understood.
I don't know what they were investigating.
But you did understand that it was having something to do with your involvement at 34 Fairview on January 28th, 29th, 2022, as a witness or otherwise.
Sustained as to certain terminologies.
Sure. Let me see if I can rephrase that, Ms. McCabe. You were aware of the subject matter of their interview, right? They weren't interviewing about a car you bought last year, correct?
Correct.
They were interviewing you basically about what you're testifying to here, correct?
When I first spoke with them, the conversation was pretty vague.
But the subject matter, vague or specific, was about this subject matter.
Yes.
Okay, fair enough. They first contacted you telephonically, called you on the phone. Is that right?
Actually, they walked up to my car.
They walked up to your car?
Yes.
Okay, that was the very first introduction, correct?
Yes.
At that point, they had not identified themselves, correct?
They didn't know.
All right, and at that point, you told them that you were not Jennifer McCabe. They asked you who you were, you said, I'm Nicole.
I thought they were like selling something, so I was like, oh no, I'm not the homeowner.
Fair enough, fair enough. However, after they said, sorry, after you said, I'm not Jennifer McCabe,
Mhm.
you walked into the house, they then called you on the phone.
Yes,
They were
correct.
still sitting outside your house.
I don't know where they were, but they did call me.
They were close by.
I'm not aware.
Well, the call came almost immediately after you walked back in the house, correct?
I'm not sure how much time had passed.
Give me an idea. It wasn't an hour. It was
No, it was
5 to 10
soon
minutes.
after. I'm just not sure. I can't tell you where they were located. I'm sorry.
okay. They told you that they would, at that point, they identified themselves as being law enforcement agents, correct?
When they called me, yes.
And they told you at that time that they were not with Canton Police. You knew at least they were not with Canton Police Department. They were not troopers with Massachusetts State Police, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And they told you that they would like to have an interview with you. They'd like to have a sit-down talk with you, correct?
Yes.
And you told them that you would be willing to submit to an interview, but you needed about 10 minutes to get ready, correct?
Yes.
You ultimately did allow them into your home, and you did sit down for a formal interview with them, correct?
Yes. Brief, but
And-
yes.
And it was during that formal interview inside the home that it was explained to you that it would be a crime for you to lie to them on any material issue, correct?
Yes.
During the course of your interview, your husband, Matt McCabe, came home. Is that right?
Yes.
As these law enforcement agents continue to question you, as law enforcement officers continue to question you at some point, you inform them that you did not feel comfortable with any further questioning and you suspended the interview, correct?
Yes.
Before leaving, however, those same law enforcement officers asked you if you had contacted anyone in those 10 minutes when you indicated, I need 10 minutes to get ready, between the time they called you and the time that they showed up and came inside
There's
your house, correct?
No way in hell she
Yes.
didn't
You
fucking
told them-
call someone.
That you had contacted your husband, Matt McCabe,
Yes.
which is why he came home, right?
Yes.
And you told them that you had called Carrie Roberts before they interviewed you, correct? At that moment.
I'm not 100% sure, but if you have it, it seems like something I would do, but if you have it, could show me.
Absolutely.
I want to see whatever evidence you have so I can craft my lies around it.
I may have just a moment, Your Honor.
Okay.
Now show her a copy of the redacted phone log that shows that she called Carrie, and then hand her a call log that shows that she called her sister O'Brien. Oh, please, please, please. Call this absolute bitch out.
Yes.
First, I'm going to ask you, Ms. McCabe, if you recognized that as being a report that it just general. Yes or no?
It appears to be, yes.
May I approach the witness stand and stand by the witness stand for a couple of questions?
Yes.
I can have that.
Sure.
I want to direct your attention, if I may, from the reporting council, page 3 of 4, starting with the second to the last full paragraph, going into page 5, top full. I'm sorry, page 4, top full.
Okay.
You could review those two paragraphs, read them to yourself, and then look up and let me know when you're finished. About who you contacted in that 10-minute interval. Refresh your recollection as to whether or not, as to what you told those agents initially. I'm sorry, what you told those officers initially from that other law enforcement agency. About who you contacted in that 10-minute interval.
Yes, I told them.
And you told them that you had contacted your husband, Matt McCabe.
Yes.
And Carrie Roberts.
Correct.
I want to stick with that for just a quick second. One of the first calls you made after being contacted by these other law enforcement officers from a different agency, one of the first calls you made was to Carrie Roberts. Is that right?
She was the first one.
That's what I'm asking. One of the first two calls you made, your husband,
Right.
come home, there's law enforcement outside my door, I'm guessing is what you said, correct?
I don't remember my exact words now, but I did ask him to come home. Correct.
And
Yes.
Carrie Roberts.
Okay. Yes.
You wanted to let Ms. Roberts know that you had been contacted by certain officers from a different agency, correct?
I was curious if they had already been to her.
That was my next question.
Yeah.
You also wanted to find out had these law enforcement officers from this different agency contacted her, correct?
Yes, because typically if you enter our town, she's.
Ms. McCabe, yes or no?
Oh, sorry, I was just trying to explain.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Is that why you contacted her, to find out if in fact they had contacted her before you? Yes or no?
Yes.
And you also wanted to find out what she told them, if she had been contacted by them, correct? That was your motive in calling her.
No.
So you just wanted to find out, had she been contacted? But
Yes.
if she had said yes, you weren't going to say, and what the hell did they say? What did they ask you?
Well, I can't say what I would have answered, what I would have asked her, but I know I was calling to see if they had been there. Yes,
That was your
correct.
that was your intent.
Lying
I
bitch.
called to ask her if they had been there.
Lying guy
So
who
that was your
lies.
intent. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Your motive in calling Carrie Roberts at that moment before your interview was to ensure that your story would line up with her story, Ms. McCabe. Isn't that right?
No, that is not.
You wanted to find out if she had talked to these particular law enforcement officers and what she had told them, so that your story could somehow align, or it could inform how you responded to questions that they asked you. Isn't that true?
That's not true. We both know what happened. We don't have to have a story. There is no story. There's what happened, and that's
so,
it.
So if that's true, Ms. McCabe,
Mhm.
you have no reason
Then why did you lie to the FBI?
and ask her if she'd been contacted by this law enforcement agency, because it's just the truth, correct?
We're going through this whole experience together. We call each other about everything.
There would
That's
be no
nothing
reason.
more than that.
So
I'm sorry.
Let her finish her answer. Go ahead, Ms. McCabe, you can finish that.
There's nothing more than me calling and saying, hey, did they come to your house? That's what we did when the media showed up, when Miss Reed's private investigator showed up. We just give each other the heads up, hey, somebody's coming, because we're just like normal moms. We're not used to this.
And that's helpful in making sure that the stories she tells are consistent with the stories you tell to different law enforcement agencies, correct?
No, we are not telling stories.
So let her finish. You said no what?
I said, no, we're not telling stories. We don't have to compare.
And if in fact what we were telling you is just the truth, there would be no reason for you to inquire about who's contacted her when.
There's no inquiring. It's like when when the ice cream truck was at the street next door and I'm saying, did the ice cream truck come? It's really that simple.
So
What the
you asked a
fuck?
question,
That was not nice of you, John.
an argumentative question, and she responded in kind. Next question. Mr.
Thank you.
Jackson.
You also testified in your direct examination, staying with Ms. Roberts for just a second, about a timeline that you and Ms. Roberts put together, correct?
Yes.
That's another example of the two of you talking about your own perceptions and comparing and contrasting those perceptions. Correct?
No,
Yes or no?
it's a no. Can I explain or no?
I'm sure Mr. Brennan will have follow-up questions. After you gave that answer to those law enforcement officers at that separate law enforcement agency, they asked you, was there anyone else that you contacted in that 10-minute period before we got a chance to talk to you? And your answer was no, correct?
Correct.
And that was a lie, correct?
It wasn't a lie. No.
Was it true? Was it the truth or a lie?
It wasn't a lie.
Okay, so it was the truth. You had not spoken to any other person between the time they contacted you telephonically and you said, I need 10 minutes, and then they came in the door. During that arc of time, you didn't talk to anybody else or contact anybody else other than Matt McCabe and Carrie Roberts. Now you're testifying that was a true statement.
I can't answer that yes or no.
It's pretty binary. Had you talked, well, let me ask you this. In point of fact, you did talk to other people. Did you contacted others in addition to Matt McCabe and Carrie Roberts, correct? Yes or no?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so when you said no to the answer, did you contact anyone other than Matt and Carrie? That would be, by definition, Ms. McCabe, a lie, correct?
No.
It's not a lie? Is there some shade of lie that I'm not aware of?
It's the way you're asking the question. If I could explain,
Let me ask
it
a
will
different
make
way.
more sense to you.
If I explain one
asked
lie,
you-
it'll make more
we go
sense.
one more
If
time
I
and
add
then move
more
on. We
detail.
just asked you, in fact, did you contact anyone between the time we called you, set up the interview, and the 10 minutes before we walked in the door? They asked you that question, correct?
The objection sustained. Watch the choice of language.
I'm sorry.
Oh, for fuck's sake,
I meant the
Ben!
law enforcement agency. That law enforcement agency, the members of that law enforcement agency contacted you. Sorry, they asked you who you had contacted between the time they first telephoned you and walked through the door 10 minutes later. Right?
Correct.
Okay. Data point number one. Data point number two. You told them Matt and Carrie, correct?
Correct.
You had actually contacted, they then asked you, did you contact anyone else other than Matt and Carrie, correct?
Correct.
And you said no. Is that correct?
At that
So
moment,
you
I
lied.
said no. Yes.
Correct. At the ring moment.
No, at that
So you
moment,
lied!
because they had just come in my house.
I asked you,
Only one person can talk at a time.
you said the word no.
She was finishing her answer. I'm sure.
I had said no because I was in a situation where there are two officers from a different agent had come in, were asking me questions, or they had said, can I come in and ask you questions? At first, I thought they were selling something. Then they identified themselves. I just dropped my kids off at school. Going to be completely honest, I hadn't brushed my teeth. So I kind of made some phone
Objection, Your
calls.
Honor. This is
That-
non-responsive.
so next question.
Thank you. Ms. McCabe,
Mhm.
after you said no, that you hadn't contacted anybody else,
Mhm.
those two law enforcement officers from that separate agency who had told you it was a crime to lie to them, they left, correct?
Yes.
Subsequent to that, Mr. McCabe, your husband, objection.
Sustained.
They left you their card so you could call them if need be, correct?
Yes, they did.
And you in fact did call them back, correct?
Yes, I did.
Without telling me the content of the conversation you had, did you have a conversation with Mr. McCabe? Objection.
Sustained.
Did you call them back and
What's the
say,
basis for that objection?
I'm calling you back
I hate the no
because
talking
my husband
objections.
told me that I lied to you and I better clear that lie up.
So sustained. Jurors, remember I told you before that only answers to questions are evidence? Be mindful of that.
May we
Next, yes.
Ooh, she's getting snippy. Spousal privilege. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, well, I mean, he told her to clear it up with the feds because they have no pull with the feds. It's cute that he keeps saying agency and he's dancing around it, though. That's funny. Law enforcement agency, not a police department. That's funny. Because what's the first thing that comes to mind when you say law enforcement agency? Fed.
Call these officers back, correct?
Yes.
May I?
Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor. You ultimately called these officers back, correct?
Yes.
And you explained to them that you had been untruthful with them, correct?
I explained that I had forgotten to mention a couple of people that I had reached out to.
You had forgotten. Is that your testimony?
Yes.
You
How
had
do you
forgotten.
forget
You
something
remember
that happened in
and you
10
remember
minutes
Carrie,
before they arrived?
but you'd forgotten the others that you had just contacted maybe 30 minutes before.
Yes.
There were 5 people that you contacted.
Crock of
I
shit.
contacted Matt.
Let's go through them.
Yeah.
Yes, no.
I know 4 off the top of my head.
Okay, let's go through them.
Okay.
You contacted your husband, correct?
Yes.
You contacted Carrie Roberts, correct?
Yes.
You contacted Peggy O'Keefe, correct?
Yes.
Then, Ms. McCabe, you contacted the
Interesting.
district attorney's office, correct?
My witness advocate.
The district attorney's office.
My witness advocate who works
Miss-
for the district attorney's
Thank you,
office.
Ms. McCabe.
Yes.
And you also left out that you contacted Brian Albert himself, correct?
Yes, my brother-in-law.
For some reason, your
Boom!
brother-in-law,
Goes the dynamite.
who's the 30-year Boston police detective, correct?
Yes.
And on whose lawn John O'Keefe was found dead or dying. Objection.
I'll allow that.
Correct?
Yes.
For some reason, you did not want these officers to know that you had communicated specifically with Brian Albert, the
With Brian
homeowner,
Albert.
just before you talked to them, correct?
No, incorrect.
There was some reason that was important enough for you to lie about that, even though you had been admonished that it's a crime to lie about that to those officers, correct?
Incorrect. I didn't lie to them. I had forgotten who I had called.
And all of a sudden, you had an epiphany right after they
It's
walked
an
out the door.
omission, which is still a
Yes.
lie.
Matt said, who have you spoken to?
Objection.
I'm going to allow it. It's out. You're not to go any further.
Ms. McCabe, I want to draw your attention to January 28th. You had gone out drinking with your family at the Waterfall Bar and Grill.
Okay, so at this point, who is she alerted to the fact that the feds are sniffing around? Brian Albert, Peggy O'Keefe, Kerry Roberts, the DA's office, because I don't care if it's a victim's advocate or not, that's going to get around the DA's office, and her husband. Either she was panicking, realizing that they were sniffing around, or she was sending out smoke signals to let everyone else know anyway. Either way, the bullshit-o-meter's at 110%.
Correct?
I went with my husband and met my sister, yes.
And met the other family, correct? The other family members, meaning
My niece.
Matt McCabe, Nicole, Chris, Julie, Caitlin, correct?
Yes,
And I think you mentioned Tristan was there as well.
yes,
You were later joined by Nick and Karina Kolakithis, is that right?
yes,
Ultimately, Brian Higgins showed up
yes,
and Brian Albert showed up.
yes.
You previously indicated that Caitlin's boyfriend, Tristan, left early for whatever reason. He had errands to run or had to get to bed early for some reason. Is that right?
He left before us, yes.
So he didn't stay through the shank of the evening.
Through the what?
The shank of the evening, through the course of the evening.
Oh, okay. Mhm.
Is that right?
Yes,
Okay. And ultimately, at the waterfall, John O'Keefe and Miss Reed showed up as well.
yes.
You didn't see any tension at all between John O'Keefe and Karen that night, did you?
No, I didn't.
They appeared to be getting along,
Yes,
sort of a normal couple having a nice evening out together.
yes.
Neither John nor Karen Reed appeared drunk or inebriated, out of sorts.
No, I wouldn't categorize them as drunk or inebriated.
And not
But again, I don't know what the definition of drunk is.
well, that's a fair statement. I'm not asking for their BAC, but they didn't appear to be stumbling around, falling all over themselves, and sloppy drunk, correct?
No.
Out of control, nothing like that.
No.
Okay. You did see Brian Higgins and Brian Albert at a high top table, sort of together through the course of that evening, correct?
We were all kind of around like a long high top table.
And John O'Keefe, and as you look at I'm going to use the perspective of the video that we've seen, that camera angle that we've seen. John O'Keefe and Miss Reed were sort of further off in the corner, closer to the bar rather than to the tables, correct? Along with the Kolakithises and those, and you, as a matter of fact.
Yes, at different times, everyone was kind of moving around. I spent the majority of the time that Karen and John were there speaking with Karen.
And that was sort of over toward the bar.
We weren't in the bar, we were at the table. So it was one side of the table and the other. It wasn't
enough.
like far away.
Right.
Kind of, yeah.
I'm using the bar sort of as a landmark for nothing. I didn't mean you were sidled up to the bar, but just
Yeah.
sort of as a landmark. You were closer to the bar than, for instance, in the foreground, which would be the high top tables in the foreground, correct?
We were just on the other, I'm confused about this. We were just on the other side of the table.
Okay. You did see on the opposite side of that high top table, that's where Brian Albert and Brian Higgins were standing, talking and communicating with each other. Is that right?
I believe so. I was talking to Miss Reed. I wasn't really paying attention to them.
Did you ever see those two men get physical with one another that night?
I did not that night. I did not see that.
Have you ever seen a full review in all the hours that you've sort of prepped for your testimony? Have you been shown that waterfall video from the time you got there until the time you left?
Not the full video, but I have seen a good portion of it, yes.
Okay, and you've certainly seen the portion where Brian Albert and Brian Higgins get up from the table and sort of get physical with one another, correct?
I would say more like play fighting, and Nick Kolakidis was a little bit like doing it with them as well.
Okay, so the physical part is, all I'm asking is, did they touch each other? Yes.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
And you described it as play fighting, correct?
If we could watch the video, it might explain it better than I could.
We probably will.
Oh, okay.
But right now, I'm just asking about your memory. You remember them swearing off on one another, playing, but swearing off on one another,
I
correct?
don't remember them swearing off. Like I said, I just watched the video. I don't remember it from that night, and I didn't really pay attention. It looked like foolish, like guys. Just I don't even know how to describe it.
From your perspective, having watched the video,
Mhm.
it appeared that they squared off on each other and sort of took a fighting stance.
I didn't look at it that in depth, so I could not say that.
Did you see them walk up to each other and grapple with one another? Like they didn't notice punching each other.
Right.
I get that.
Mhm.
Were they grappling with one another, like faking punches to each other,
I don't know.
almost like sparring a little bit?
I don't honestly know.
But you did see.
I saw them together. It's blurry, and they're kind of, I don't know really what they're doing.
Okay, but they weren't standing there holding hands. Right?
Oh, God, no. No.
They weren't on their phones, right?
They were engaging with each other, playfully, grabbing at each other. I don't really,
Playfully grabbing each other, like fighting, correct? That's my.
I'd have to watch the video to categorize it as play fighting.
You don't have that in your head.
I didn't know. It was a quick clip. I wasn't like focusing on Brian and
So they're
Brian.
squaring
I was
up
just
to
identifying
to
that
take
that was
swings at each
myself
other,
in the
and you're
video, and
basically
there was
saying, oh,
Miss
it's
Reed.
boys will
And
be
I
boys.
believe Miss Reed actually did some play fighting to Matt.
There was, in fact, to Matt.
Yeah, I feel like she was about like this to Matt at one point. Yeah, in the video.
So let's talk about Brian and Brian
Mhm.
Higgins and Brian Albert.
Mhm.
Those two men, very large in stature, correct?
They're the guys. Yeah.
Big boys.
Mhm.
A lot bigger than me, right?
Yeah.
They took a fighting stance with each other and started grappling, playing, coming toward each other as if they were engaging in a fake physical altercation, correct?
I did not see that. I'm sorry.
Okay. You didn't even see it on video.
I saw them on the video grabbing at each other. I didn't see stances but again, I didn't pay much attention to it.
And that's your best memory as you sit here today.
Yes.
Okay. Eventually, you, your husband, Brian Albert, Brian Higgins, Nicole, Caitlin, everybody went over to 34 Fairview at the end of the night,
Yes.
correct? The bar closed at, I'm guessing, midnight.
Okay.
Is that right?
I think we were wrapping up around then. I don't know what time it actually closes.
When you left Waterfall, the people that were still there included Matt, your husband, and John O'Keefe. Is that right?
Yes.
You walked out with Karina Kolakithis and Karen Reed.
Yes.
And you said to Miss Reed something along the lines of, "You're coming with me," correct?
I said, why don't you come with me?
Okay, fair enough. You were prompting her to join you for the ride over to 34 Fairview. Is that right?
Yes.
You even went outside and sort of waited in the cold. There's a video. Have you seen the video of you outside? The surveillance video of you outside in the cold?
Yes.
And
I
you're
still
sort of
don't
waiting
get
there,
why she was trying to
moving
separate
from
him.
foot to foot like it's freezing
John.
out. which-
Sorry, separate Karen from John.
Yes.
in a big puffy coat of some kind, right?
So the question was, I moving foot to foot in a coat? Yes.
My question is more, did you see yourself waiting outside the cold?
I saw myself convert. I believe I was in a conversation at that point when I was standing out there with John and Karen.
And that's when you were asking Karen to come with you.
No, I had asked Karen previously when we were at the door to come with me because I didn't know how long Matt and John were going to be in the bar because they
Right.
were in there still.
And that would have, by definition, brought Karen to 34 Fairview separate and apart from John O'Keefe if Karen had come with you.
Yes.
Still don't know that I believe that.
Miss Reed ultimately declined your invitation and did go with John. Is that right?
John ended up coming to the door, so they just went together. Yes.
And finally, you walked away and went with your husband, Matt, over to 34 Fairview in your personal vehicle, correct?
Yes.
When you arrived at 34 Fairview, were you the first among the group that we've just talked about to arrive, or had others arrived before you?
Others had arrived before me.
When you walked in to 34 Fairview, where was everybody generally located? Give me a layout of the interior of the home, how you walked in and where everybody was located, the people that were there when you walked in from the waterfall.
So I walked in through the front door. I took a right into the kitchen. And then there were people sitting around the kitchen table, Brian Albert Jr., Julie Nagel, Sarah Levinson, Caitlin Albert. My sister was over more towards like the counters in the sink, and Brian Albert and Brian Higgins were, there's like a room right off of the kitchen, like a TV room, and they were in there just talking. I think Nicole had like put up some new pictures, or maybe the Sun and the Marines. They might have been looking at a picture. Vaguely have a faint memory of that.
You indicated that you walked in the front door, correct?
Yes.
May I approach briefly?
Yes.
Yeah, this is your, I'll take care of that. Can you just take a look at that photograph for just a quick second?
Yes.
Do you recognize that photograph?
Yes.
What do you recognize that photograph as being?
It's my sister's house.
34 Fairview?
Yeah.
Were they Coke Fury, or were they going home to their husbands at night, waiting for them to fall asleep, and then pulling their John out of their bedside table? I don't know. I don't think John slept around that much, if I'm perfectly honest. And I say that much because I can't guarantee that he didn't. But...
Yes, sorry, 34 Fairview.
Brian Albert's house as well.
Yes.
Your Honor, I'd like to mark this as marked for identification. There's a
Identifications.
thank you. If I may. What will be the next in order?
For identification.
Thank you. Just one, Your Honor. What exhibit number is that, Mr. Wolf? Permission to publish?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf, could you highlight or enlarge the house as much as you can? Thank you. Ms. McCabe, do you recognize what's depicted in this photo? I know it's a little bit of an angle.
Yes,
What is that?
that is 34 Fairview.
Okay. Can you, I think this laser will work. May I approach?
Yes.
Use that laser
I think Crypt Creeper works better simply because I'm pretty sure he still had some hair.
when you walked in the house. Okay, that's directly in the middle of the just to the left of the flagpole for this purposes of this photograph, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Is there another entry door on the house that you may not be able to see, but you know the general area?
Yes.
Where's that door?
So that would be, see where these two windows are?
Yes.
The door would be kind of behind that right there. So it's right to the left of those two windows.
And Ms. McCabe, just staying with doors for a second, is there another door associated with the garage?
Oh, actually, yeah, there is, right there.
Right there next to that side door?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. May I approach?
Yes.
You didn't go in the side door, you went in the front door that night.
Yes.
You indicated that once inside the house, you were sort of in the kitchen area. Is that right?
I was in the kitchen, yes.
You weren't paying special attention to Brian Albert or Brian Higgins, what they were doing. As a matter of
No.
fact, I think they went into a different room. Is that right?
There's a room, kind of the kitchen opens up into the TV room. So they were in there.
So the only two that you recognized at this point in the night, not being sort of with everybody else, were Brian Albert and Brian Higgins, separated out in the family room or whatever that room's called, living room.
Yeah, if you like just right there, right where they are, just
Okay.
kind of right in the next room.
When you first pulled up, did you notice any vehicles in front of Brian Albert's house?
Yes, I did.
What vehicles did you notice? Vehicle or vehicles? Did you
Just
notice?
one.
What was that vehicle?
It was a Jeep.
Can you describe the Jeep for us, please?
I really can't. All I can say is that when I pulled down, the Jeep was on the parked on the street in front of the mailbox, and I turned into the driveway.
Okay. Did the Jeep have any special features?
So
on
how do you
that
know it was a
remember
Jeep?
that you
No.
can describe?
Not that I can recall.
Big giant snowplow on the front?
Again, it was dark. I didn't really pay much detail to it beyond I just asked whose Jeep is that.
And did you learn whose Jeep that was?
I did, yes.
Whose Jeep was it?
It was Brian Higgins' Jeep.
And you said that it was parked in front of the mailbox. Is that right?
Yes,
So as you're looking at the house, the mailbox would be closest to the driveway. Is that right?
yes,
Rather than, for instance, the flagpole on the other side of the lawn.
correct. So if the flagpole's here, there's the lawn, and then here's here's the mailbox, and then the driveway's over here.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does to me.
Okay.
Thank you for that. You've previously indicated that the back edge of that vehicle, Brian Higgins' Jeep, was at the side, basically, of the driveway, which is what you've just described. It would be blocking the mailbox, the rear end associated with the driveway entrance, correct?
Yes.
Have you ever discussed having seen that Jeep in that spot with anybody else in this case?
Is that including previous testimony or?
It is. And at any time, before you testified at the previous hearing, had you discussed having seen that Jeep in that spot with anybody else? For instance, your husband? Was there any other car on that curb line, if you will, other than the Jeep when you pulled in?
Not that I remember.
And Brian Higgins, if it's his Jeep, he's in the house. That Jeep's not moving, correct? So it stayed where it was.
Yes.
At some point, did you observe Miss Reed's vehicle pull up to the driveway? I'm sorry, pull up to the house.
I was told there was a vehicle outside, so I went and looked.
Where
Yes.
was that vehicle? When you looked that first time, where was Miss Reed's SUV?
When I went to the front door and looked out, it was straight ahead.
So that would be parallel, actually in line with the Jeep, correct?
Yes.
Directly in front of the Jeep.
I don't know the distance, but yes, you're correct. It was in front of the Jeep.
So if the Jeep was it's a full-size Jeep, correct?
I don't know what size it is.
Certainly the SUV is a full-size SUV.
Yes.
All right. So that would take up much of the room of the curb area in front of 34 Fairview, between the Jeep, assuming there's a snowplow,
Right.
and a full-size SUV, correct?
I'm not really sure of the whole area, but there was the Jeep and then there was the car. I just don't know the distance between them.
You gave a description of the vehicles that were out in front of 34 Fairview in your January 29, 2022 interview with Trooper Proctor, correct?
He came to my house and asked me questions, correct?
When you gave that interview to Trooper Proctor,
That's an interview.
you indicated to him that you first observed Miss Reed's vehicle parked on the street by the driveway, correct?
I never said by the driveway, no.
So if that's in a report, Trooper Proctor got that fact wrong, got that detail wrong.
Sustained.
If in fact, well, let me ask it this way. What did you say to Trooper Proctor about where that vehicle was?
Miss Reed's vehicle?
Correct.
I told him it was straight out front, the window. The straight out front of the front door. Sorry.
Trooper Proctor wrote a report about this interview with you, correct?
Correct?
You've seen that report in other hearings, is that right?
Yes.
Your interview with him was on January 29th. Do you remember the date? I'm sorry, I just said the date. Do you remember the time? My mistake.
I don't remember the exact time. I'm assuming afternoon, like after 12, or I'm not 100%. Sorry.
You had been contacted by Trooper Proctor while you were still at 34 Fairview, is that right?
Yes.
Ultimately, instead of coming from the Canton Police Department to 34 Fairview, you went home to your house,
I did.
to
Yes.
the Country Lane address.
Yes, I did.
And Trooper Proctor ended up meeting you there, correct?
Yes.
And in addition to you and Matt being there,
Mhm.
Brian Albert showed up, correct?
I asked him to come.
So you asked your brother-in-law to come to the interview that you were having with Trooper Proctor formally in furtherance of his investigation surrounding the circumstances of this case. Correct?
No,
But Brian Albert did show up at your house.
he did. I asked him to come. Yes.
And he was inside the house when Trooper Proctor ultimately interviewed you, correct?
He was in the house. Yes.
And you'd spoken to Brian Albert before Trooper Proctor had interviewed you formally, correct?
I believe so. Yes.
As a matter of fact, several times you had to have spoken to him at 34 Fairview.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, another stream. Thank you very much for joining me. Please remember, you are not a piece of shit. You have value and do contribute to society, especially for being here and keeping me company while we watch this shit show of a trial. I'll be back later today, my time anyway, in the evening. Closer to midnight, I think now, US time, to watch part 2 of the cross-examination. We'll see where it leads. But as always, stay healthy, wealthy, wise, people, and I will catch you all on the flip side. Cheers, peeps.
And again, on your way out, please do me the favor and hit the like and subscribe button if you're so inclined. It costs nothing. It's absolutely free, and we'll be friends forever. Bye now.
Unfortunately, some members of the media
Some members of the media
use their platforms
to push their own personal bias.
To push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This shit, I'm out. Fuck this shit, I'm out. No thanks. Don't mind me. I'ma just grab my stuff and leave. Excuse me, please. Fuck this shit, I'm out. Nope. Fuck this shit, I'm out. Alright then. I don't know what the fuck just happened, but I don't really care. I'ma get the fuck up out of here. Fuck this shit, I'm out.